This meeting of the Public Utility Commission of Texas will come to order to consider matters that have been duly posted with the Secretary of State for June 18th, 2026. Good morning, everyone. We seem to be popular today. It's a lot of full house. So, Commissioners, I'm going to recommend we take things up a little out of order. We do have closed session today, and we're going to hear from our FERC counsel. So my request would be we go through the consent agenda, take up public comment. We have an ED update that Connie's asked to do at the beginning of the meeting. Then we do closed session, and then we run through the agenda. And then when we get to the rules and projects portion, I'm going to propose that we take up item 28, then item 31, and then item 27 in that order, if that works for everyone. We'll just assume you agree with me, Commissioner Yaltman. Does that work for everybody? Okay.
Yes.
All right. And then before we get to that, just a few announcements. So you all may have seen yesterday, we have a new commission counsel, Ron Olson, who comes over from TCEQ, where he had a long career. And we're excited for him starting here and leading our Office of Policy and Docket Management going forward. So Ron, welcome.
Thank you.
And then we are going to have two departures that I did want to talk about. One, and I don't know if they are in the room, Jess Heck, who is our Director of Governmental Relations, is leaving the commission. And Connie, I don't know if I don't see Jess.
She is covering a call for me in Barksdale.
Okay, well, that's important. And then Ellie Breed, who has been in our communications division and been amazing for our media work, is also leaving. Her fiance, I believe, got a job in Houston. So even though we tried to keep her, she has chosen her fiance over this agency, and which we understand, I guess. And so to both of them, best of luck. I'm sure we'll see them around in their names and in the work that we do, but appreciate their service to the state here at the PUC. So, all right, with that, we'll go to our consent agenda. Alex, will you please take us through the consent agenda, please?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. First of all, Commissioner Rhode filed a memo stating that he is recused from item 12. By individual ballot, the following contested case items were placed on your consent agenda: 3, 5, 7 through 15, 18, and 21 through 24. 2 items from the Rules and Projects section of the agenda were placed on your consent agenda. That's 33 and 41. And items 16 and 19 will not be taken up.
Thank you, Alex. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as laid out by Alex.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion prevails. All right, Alex, that'll take us to item number 1, public comment. Has anyone signed up for public comment?
Yes, sir. 5 people have signed up for public comment. I'll call them up in groups. So the first 3 people signed up to speak are Judy Gracie, or Julie Grace, I'm sorry, Cyrus Reed, and Ian Johnston. Could you come up to speak in the seats on my right? As a reminder, public comment, pending contested case items are subject to the ex parte prohibition under Texas Government Code 2001.061. So public comment is for any other matters related to the Commission's jurisdiction and not for pending contested case items. You'll have 3 minutes, and before you start, please state your name for the court reporter and speak directly into the mic. Yes, Julie?
Get started. My name is Judy Gracie, and I'm here to talk just about the reliability plan and how you become a reliability plan. So started with House Bill 5066 that really implemented by changing a couple things. It changed how the load forecast were considered. They went from being supported by an officer-attested letter instead of a executed interconnection agreement. So it really made a big difference there. It also changed how many days a CCN would be in the process, from 360 to 180. So made those two, and then it gave the big direction about, three things that should be considered in having this reliability plan. So, that was the first thing. Then, so after it got started, then ERCOT commissioned a Permian oil and gas load study that was from UT's Bureau of Economic Geology. And they didn't use it in any way into the Permian Basin Plan. Instead, they used the 2022 S&P Global, which had 12 gigawatt added forecast instead of the Bureau of Economic Geology, which would have added just 3.1. So there was a big difference there, that it wasn't included in the plan. The other thing that happens is, the applicants were excluded, by the PUC Commission from, they were exempted from doing alternative analysis. So that really, only left a transmission alternative. And then we had, and then, you have in Texas, only the existing transmission owner has the exclusive right to construct extensions. So any line that is owned and operated by a, transmission service company has the right to do the extension. So there's no competitive bidding. And it really sets them, up to do quite a bit of work, become one of the main transmission companies in the state. So I think, I think that's, oops, well,
No,
thank you.
You can please finish your statement.
No, I'm really good.
Hello, for the record, Cyrus Reed, Lone Star Chapter of the Sierra Club. I'm here to talk about, I'm here to talk about two things. One is, at Sierra Club, as you can imagine, I get a lot of calls from folks upset about data centers. And so just to let you know, it's real out there. People are concerned about water use, electricity use, noise, air pollution, et cetera. And I know this is something you're aware of. And then the second thing I wanted to say is, we did see that the governor of Texas issued a directive and sent you a letter that says you should take some sort of action or create some sort of framework by sometime next month. I think it's July 17th, which is a short timeline. But then it goes on to talk about other things that probably you can't do because they require statutory changes. And so I guess what I'm here to say is, it's confusing for us in the public because I think there are several projects where one could opine or give opinion. Obviously, 59281, which is the water use survey and the water use reporting, is one that the governor talked about. But also, obviously, there's the transmission allocation costs, which I think you're going to talk about today, but also the interconnection standards. And I guess I know this isn't a time for question and answer, but it might be useful to put the governor's letter in a new project to talk about what he talked about so people could then give you any advice, opinions. I know there are many stakeholders watching this, not just me. So just a suggestion that, putting it in a project because he talked about making sure that Texans don't bear any of those costs and in fact have lower costs. And folks in this audience and others may have ideas on that. So that's my plea to you. You don't have to answer, but certainly there's a lot of feelings out there throughout Texas, all over the state, and so this is a big discussion. I know, and I know you've already got some things open that are important, like transmission costs, like interconnection, like PGR 145. But there's probably more we could do given the directive from the governor. So that's it.
Thank you. And Ian Johnston? In that case, we'll move on to the remaining 2 people signed up for public comment. Kevin Kennedy and Santiago. If you could come up to the front. Santiago?
No, I'm Kennedy.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, please go ahead.
Good morning. My name's Kevin Kennedy. I'm a Burnet County property owner, and I wanted to talk to y'all a little bit about notification. So yesterday, y'all, pardon me, y'all had some questions about that, and you were told that the problem lies with the central appraisal districts, that essentially their data's not good, it's inconsistent, and therein lies the problem, and that there's really not a good solution to be able to notify affected property owners properly. Well, I beg to differ. The appraisal districts that I've talked to, they have good data. It's current, it's accurate, and it's available. The challenge is, or the issue is, that you can have the greatest data in the world, but if you don't collect it, maintain it, and use it properly, then you don't notify the people. And I think that's what's happening here. So you could take an applicant, a transmission company, they don't really have the time or resources to call all of those appraisal districts. So they hire a team of consultants to do that for them. The team of consultants may not have time to do it, so they hire a hired gun to come in and help line them out. The hired gun doesn't have time or inclination to fool with it, so they hire a landman. Well, as you go down through all these layers of subs, eventually the message gets diluted, and the landman doesn't understand the importance of it. Well, the landman also may not have time to fool with calling all the appraisal districts, so they seek out a clearinghouse that collects addresses. There's lots of them out there. The folks that get you the junk mail, that's where people go to get your address. So maybe the landman goes there. And then the landman wants to make his life easy, so once he collects the data for the public meeting, he doesn't bother to update it a year later. And so what happens is a notice gets sent to someone who sold the property a year ago. Gets sent to California from some past property owner, not the current owner as required in the code. Now, that seems real simple to solve, but the problem is, and don't take this the wrong way, but you guys are kind of a paper tiger. You don't have a mechanism to assure compliance and to enforce compliance. It just doesn't appear to exist. The state of Texas actually calls upon me to do that for you. In the SOA Order Number 1, in every CCN application that I've reviewed, there's a caution to interested parties. That's a big deal. And there's a call of duty to landowners to bring you the information. But the problem is, by the time we get the information, we're already in the application stage, and everybody's got a 180-day get-out-of-jail-free card. So as I come to you and say, hey, we've got an issue, somebody says, oh, got a get-out-of-jail-free card. And I can bring up issue after issue after issue that negatively affects landowners, and we get to keep playing this get-out-of-jail-free card. Well, that's what I want to fix. I want to bring an end to that, and I want y'all to help me do that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here, and appreciate you wearing a Texas A&M shirt. Thank you, sir.
Gig 'em.
Thank you.
I believe that concludes public comment. We have one person signed to speak for a wrap item later.
Alex.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah, please come up.
I was also going to ask Alex, is there an overflow room?
Yes, there's 2 overflow rooms.
And they can hear the names that are called in for the public testimony? Okay. And we confirmed that, like, what was the name that you called that didn't arrive?
Ian Johnston also.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Johnston, I don't know where.
Okay.
Yeah, they can hear it.
Great. Thank you, Magina.
Please go ahead
Howdy.
when you're ready.
Howdy, y'all. My name's Santiago. I was born and raised in Texas. Been here most of my life. Paid my way to get here. Rode the bus, walked a lot today. Been in Austin about 20 years. Grew up pretty rural. A lot of conversations about water. I was looking at agenda item 44. Something about Sunset Advisory Commission. I'm a great character. I've been in Austin for 20 years now. Wanted to share a little old adage from Asia, from about 1300s. For want of a nail, the shoe was lost. For want of a shoe, the horse was lost. For want of a horse, the rider was lost, being overtaken. For want of a horse, the rider was lost. For want of a rider, the message was lost. For want of a message, the battle was lost. For want of a battle, the kingdom was lost. And all for the want of a horseshoe nail. And I think this proverb is talking about sort of the small things, things that fall through the gaps. I've got some family up in Rockdale. They lost their water last weekend. The real announcement of what happened. I know there's a old Rockdale plant with a bunch of water usage over there. And I know over in Grimes County, they're thinking about doing some more heavy water intensive things. I know XAI has moved downtown to Seahome Power Plant. Doghead is opened up here in East Austin without much restrictions. So I'm trying to understand where I'm supposed to be addressing. There's something called the Sunset Advisory Commission and the Legislative Budget Board. Maybe I'm going to talk to them. Essentially, I'm curious about directing TWDB to develop a coordinated outreach plan to more efficiently promote agency programs, improve operations, and ensure its outreach efforts meet entities' needs and expectations. So I've been working on this project downtown Austin for about 10 years now, disrupted by some major changes to I-35, and one of the things I-35 is doing is a 25-foot diameter stormwater conveyance tunnel beneath Cesar Chavez, and I want to look for constructive reuse of something called the Go Valley Stormwater Treatment Plant, possibly use that for secondary treatment to remove first flush effects and try to have some retention-detention capacity, imitating something like what China did with called Sponge City, to try to do some secondary treatment. And then also in Austin, there's this thing called Purple Pipe. So maybe that can be a shared utility tunnel and piped back to Austin. So appreciate the time and your service.
Yes, and sir, you mentioned a couple other state agencies, Sunset, Legislative Budget Board, and Water Development Board. So our Division of Utility Outreach, or our consumer folks can help you kind of navigate. I'll ask them to help you navigate how to contact those other state agencies so you can get an audience with them.
Appreciate you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Chair.
Yeah, I believe that concludes public comment, failing the remaining person showing up.
And I don't see them in the room, so. All right, thank you, Alex. So that'll then take us, commissioners, to item 44, which is an agency update, and Connie has an update for us.
I'd like to ask Barksdale and Haley to join me. Good morning, Commissioners. We're approaching the halfway point of the year, and in addition to all of the work that you see coming before you at the open meeting, there are a lot of exciting things happening behind the scenes at the agency, and I'm here today to tell you about one of my favorites, and that's our Lead at PUC program. Every spring, we open up applications to staff, really whether they're a manager or a frontline contributor or anyone who wants to build their leadership skills, and we select from them a slate of applicants that we feel as the executive team have demonstrated dedication, potential, and commitment to building their professional skills. And we invite them to be a part of our Lead at PUC program, which runs from July to December of each year. Each of you have graciously agreed to participate and lead one of the messages for each of the 5 months of the program. And I thank you for that. We've had our inaugural program last year, a lot of learnings, a lot of great feedback, and we're looking forward to having it even bigger and better this year. So I'd like Haley and Barksdale to talk a little bit about the program itself, and Mr. Chairman would like you to introduce the 2026 cohort.
Good morning, Commissioners. Haley Hall for Commission staff. So as Connie mentioned, this is going to be a 6-month journey, July to December. It's going to include a lot of kind of structured learning, a lot of reflection, a lot of reading, and a lot of collaboration among the cohort. They're going to work very closely with us and hopefully get to know all of you really well together. The theme of the Lead at PUC program is Lead Where You Are. So we're really looking for these staff to develop their leadership skills and be able to use them in the positions that they're in today. So we really are looking forward to seeing what they do and to develop those skills, broaden their impact, and yeah, we're very excited about the cohort this year.
Thanks, Chairman and Commissioners. One of the evolutions of the program this year is the introduction of a mentorship program that is going to go alongside the Lead at PUC program. And very happily, we have 3 Lead at PUC graduates from last year returning to serve as peer mentors for this year's class. And we're really excited to see how this evolves over the next 6 months and hopefully turn this into a core component of the Lead at PUC program. As Haley mentioned, leading where you are doesn't mean that you have to be a manager of personnel or employees. It just means that you have to demonstrate a commitment to serving the mission of the agency and to furthering your own and your peers' development towards that mission. And we're super excited to have these 3 individuals join us this year to share not only their learnings from last year, but also show how that they are leading from where they are. Even though they may not be managers, they are definitely leaders, and we're excited to see what they'll be able to do to help round out this program.
So first, thanks to each of you for your willingness to engage in this effort. I think this agency's desire to invest in its employees is one of the things that really sets it apart from perhaps other state agencies, and appreciate the time and effort that you all put into a program like this. What I get excited about is seeing how, as these folks work through this program, and then whether it's here or another state agency or anywhere else, kind of take what they learn and go on to lead in many capacities, in many different jobs, again, whether it be here or somewhere else. And so appreciate that. Hopefully this can really inspire them and help them achieve their full potential as they move forward in their careers and personally, honestly. So Connie, yeah, with that, so the 2026 members are Daniel Alvarado, and I guess I should say, is everybody here? Okay. So Daniel Alvarado, if you want to just raise your hand so people can see who you are, or stand up. Okay, there we go. Rosalie Branham. Zachary Dollar. Ty Harris. Olivia Hemby. Michelle Hernandez, who may not be here. Okay. Dylan Love. Ava Pinehart. Lawrence Ramos. And Christopher Valentine. And then additionally, if they're here, our alumni mentors, Laura Clark, Courtney Rosales, and Rama Singh Rastogi. So 5 months. Use this, learn as much as you can, share information, make connections. It's a unique opportunity. I know I have faith that each of you will engage in this meaningfully, and I'm excited to hear at the end of it how you all feel it went, both things that went extremely well and things that we can improve on, because we want to make sure that this is a meaningful opportunity for everyone. So congratulations to each of you. All right, so per our conversation beginning, we're going to now go to closed session with our FERC counsel. So having convened in a duly noticed open meeting, the commission will now at 9:57 a.m. on June 18, 2026, hold a closed session pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. It will consult with its attorney pursuant to Section 551.071 of the code, deliberate personnel matters pursuant to Section 551.074 of the code, and deliberate security matters pursuant to Section 551.076 of the code. We'll be back. The closed session is hereby concluded at 10:20 a.m. on June 18, 2026, and the commission will resume its public meeting. The commission will now consider taking action on the following matters that were deliberated on during the closed session. First, I'll entertain a motion that the commission request rehearing in response to opinion 595 in FERC dockets ER 21-915, EL 22-6, and ER 23-2821, and delegate authority to Commissioner Yaltman to direct any future participation of the commission in these matters.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. Second, I'll entertain a motion that the commission file a protest in response to the complaint in FERC docket EL 26-73 and delegate authority to Commissioner Yaltman to direct any future participation of the commission in this matter.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. And just so everyone knows, we're working on the audio. I think we'll try to speak a little clearer and louder, but we're aware that there may be some audio issues.
Yeah, Texas admin worked on it during closed session, and they believe it's resolved, but TBD.
Okay, thank you, Connie. All right, so on to contested cases. That'll take us to item number 2. Will you lay out item number 2, please?
Yes, item 2 is docket number 57022, application of Undine, Texas LLC for a pass-through rate change. Before you is a proposed order. No corrections or exceptions were filed, and Chairman Gleeson filed a memo.
Thank you, Alex. As Alex said, I filed a memo. I'd approve this proposed order with the modifications to ensure consistency in this with Undine's proposed and commission staff's recommended methodology in the docket, and with how we did a similar credit that was addressed in docket number 57284. Happy to answer any questions.
No questions here.
I'm in agreement with your memo.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed order as modified by my memo.
So moved.
I second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. Alex, will you lay out item number 4, please?
Item 4 is docket number 57679, application of CSWR-Texas Utility Operating Company, LLC, and Boling Municipal Water District for sale, transfer, or merger of facilities and certificate rights in Wharton County. Before you is a proposal for decision. CSWR-Texas filed exceptions. OPUC and commission staff filed replies. On May 18, the SOALJ filed an exceptions letter and made no changes to the PFD. Chairman Gleeson filed a memo.
Thank you, Alex. As stated in my memo, I'd grant CSWR's request for rates here. I've been pretty open about my feelings on consolidation. I think it's important to remember the purpose of this statute in trying to move forward with consolidation. I think we should apply the statute in a way that's consistent with the legislature's intent for wanting to see more consolidation in the industry. And so because of that, I'd grant CSWR's requested rates.
I agree with the memo.
That sounds good to me. I also appreciate the clarification and the cleanup that you had with regard to ensuring that this was an interim order on the matter.
I did have just a couple of thoughts here. I know we have a number of these that come before us. And although, oftentimes, we feel like moving forward with the consolidation as we've done here or recommending here is a good thing. But what we're kind of struggling with sometimes is whether to do the existing rates or whether to do the initial rates that have been recommended. And there's oftentimes a look back to the various cases to see what might differentiate going one way or the other. And in this particular case, I know that, part of what was in the record was that the water district, as a taxing entity, was generating revenues from taxes in addition to existing rates. But I would not want this to be interpreted that that was in any way something that would create some sort of precedent just because of the way that the revenue structure was intact. And so I think on these, we review these on a case-by-case basis. And I think for me, on this particular one, the fact that they identified, a significant amount of improvement that was needed, this obviously is something that, would be good for the water district and something that needs to be done. And I would just, encourage CSWR to move forward with those improvements expeditiously.
Appreciate that, Commissioner Jackson, and you're absolutely right. I think that's part of the deal when we're granting these. CSWR knows how to properly own, operate, and maintain systems, and ensuring that with these rates come the needed improvements, I think is key. So thank you for that.
I'm in agreement with Commissioner Jackson. You said it very well. And my previous hat as OPUC, I take their arguments and staff's arguments. I understand where they're coming from, but I also don't think we can ask CSWR or any of these water systems to put on a full rate case at this point. And with the intent of the legislature of what the purpose was and the evidence provided, I think that they provided what was needed for us to give these rates in the PFD.
Okay. So with that, I'll entertain motion to adopt the proposal for decision in part and reject in part, consistent with my memo.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. All right, Alex, will you lay out item number 6, please?
Item 6 is docket number 57765, petition of Premier at Katy LLC appealing the decision of the Northwest Harris Fort Bend County's Municipal Utility District Number 3 to change rates. In SOA Order Number 9, filed on April 16, the SOA ALJ denied Premier at Katy's motion for interim rates. Before you is Premier at Katy's appeal of that SOA order.
Thank you, Alex. As Alex stated, the ALJ concluded Premier's motion for interim rates should be denied. I think there are some issues with their analysis, and they need to be corrected. To request interim rates, they need to show that the appealed rate could result in unreasonable economic hardship and could be unjust and reasonable. Showing something could happen is a relatively, not a high bar. It's a relatively low bar. And then the commission has its broad discretion whether or not to grant interim rates. So just a couple points, commissioners. First, here I think Premier did enough to show that the appealed fee could result in unreasonable economic hardship to the district's customers. They allege that they suffered rate shock. According to Premier, its monthly charges increased from approximately $7,300 to $26,000. The ALJ wanted Premier to present evidence addressing potential impacts of interim relief. I don't think that's feasible or appropriate here. This isn't a final decision, right? And so I just don't really feel that that's necessary and really not feasible in this case. Second, I think Premier did enough to show that the appealed fee could be unjust and reasonable. They're alleging that they have an existing tax exemption that enables them to provide affordable housing, and that the district is charging them a non-taxable fee in lieu of those payments. Premier asserts that the fees that are collected are not related to the district's provision of service. Then we get to the point of, do we grant interim, the interim rates? And as I said, we have broad discretion here. My feeling, where I'm leaning right now, is to grant this. They appear to have experienced rate shock here. Premier provides affordable housing and is limited in the amount of money they can charge in rent for half of the units, so revenue is extremely limited. So that's where I kind of came down. I think this is a close call, in all honesty, and we spent a lot of time in briefing talking about this. So I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts. But again, I think for all the reasons stated, where I'm landing right now is on granting this. But happy to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I also agree. I could go either way, I think, on the approving or denying of the interim rates, but I definitely can agree and underscore the analysis that you provided with regard to the ALJ's interpretation of the statute. The way the statute is written and then our rules as well, I don't believe requires someone that is requesting interim rates to speak for every other customer if those customers are also not a party to the case. So I do agree that there is some analysis and application of the law here in the ALJ order that is incorrect. So I'd be happy to correct that here.
Yeah, I was on the fence, and we too had a lot of discussion on this, and then back in my office, going back and forth, because we were pretty divided. I will not say that your Aggie legal mind is what convinced me, because I would not give you that much credit. I think, you know, my reading of the water code, it does set that lower bar. The word could is very specific. I would just like to caution, in general, I would like to see more evidence. I would err on the over evidence rather than the under in general.
I think this is a tough one, and we struggled as well too with the discussion. I agree that it was perhaps overburdensome to ask Premier to speak on behalf of all customers, but it's hard not to appreciate that consideration, especially given the type of facility that they are. So I do agree with you. I think it's a tough one, tough call.
I think for me, part of this is that these are interim rates that we're talking about, and I think there is a sensitivity not just for Premier, but also for all the other customers in the district that would basically have, if you will, the burden and shifted towards them. And so in some way, they will long-term be impacted by whatever decision we ultimately make on this one. But in terms of interim rates, I'm okay with proceeding and granting those.
And I think that's another good point, because these are interim rates. At the end of this proceeding, the difference between the interim rates and the final rates will get reconciled. And so that's a really good point as well. Okay, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to grant the appeal of SOA Order 9 consistent with our discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. All right, Alex, I believe that'll take us then to item number 20. Will you lay out item number 20, please?
Item 20 is docket number 59475, joint application of Encore Electric Delivery Company, LLC, and LCRA Transmission Service Corporation to amend their certificates of convenience and necessity for the Bell County East Switch to Big Hill Substation 765 kV transmission line project. In SOA Order number 13, filed on May 15, the SOA ALJ has denied requests for a route adequacy hearing. Before you are appeals filed by Save the Lampasas and by 4K Land and Cattle Company of that SOA order.
Thank you, Alex. Commissioners, after thinking about this one, where I came down is I deny this appeal. I believe the ALJ properly denied the request for a route adequacy hearing. So just briefly, you know, the commission has a standard in its preliminary orders for electric CCNs that reflects an almost 20-year precedent. The commission's policy, whether an application contains an adequate number of reasonably differentiated alternative routes to conduct a choice in routing, but also recognizing there may be circumstances that justify a limited number of alternative routes, including the endpoint. Here, the applicants provided evidence to show that an adequate number of reasonably differentiated routes, considering all facts and circumstances, was presented. Although there are a limited number of corridors in the study area, they did provide a reasoned justification for those routes as proposed. And because Save the Lampasas and 4K Land and Cattle Company have not shown that they're entitled to a route adequacy hearing or that the ALJ's order was an error, I deny the appeal of order number 13. Happy to hear your thoughts.
I'm in agreement. I think you spoke very well on the fact of, you know, route sufficiency, and 122 routes as a proposal of different routes is sufficient in my mind. And really importantly, I think a denial here does not preclude these parties from raising alternatives or modifications as we continue on, and I think that's an important point to make as well.
I would agree. After reviewing the record and the SOA ALJ's analysis, I would concur with denial.
I would concur with denial as well, and I think you made, you know, an excellent point in terms of what the path forward may be for some who still want to pursue this.
I agree as well.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to not deny the appeal of SOA Order number 13 consistent with our discussion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails.
Real quick, Chairman, are our mics being picked up? I can't tell if all the other ones, okay, they are. Okay, great.
Okay. All right, so Alex, I think that concludes the contested case portion of our agenda. So we'll move now to rules and projects. As we discussed, we'll take these a little out of order. So first up, we'll take item number 28. That is project number 54445, review of protocols adopted by the independent organization.
And I believe we have one person signed up.
That's right, and Cholla is here. If their representative will come up.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Chris Patton. I'm from Lynn Pinkerhurst and Schwegman in Dallas, and I'm counsel for Cholla Inc., a Texas-based large load developer. Cholla supports the general intent of PGR 145, but asks for narrow relief that the Commission condition its approval on a directive requiring ERCOT to prioritize and complete the validation necessary to determine the baseload eligibility for loads associated with Cholla's RTP projects before July 10th, 2026, the deadline that's in the commentary. This requested relief is narrow, but the principles involved are broad, and there are two primary principles. The first is this idea of fair notice, no retroactivity, due process more generally. Cholla followed the rules. It committed capital in reliance on those rules. Its project should be judged on the merits of its submissions and not penalized because ERCOT took longer than expected. The second broad principle is the idea of fair competition. It's not a level playing field where the allocation of scarce capacity turns on which applicant ERCOT happened to finish reviewing first rather than the merits. And these two principles, these two broad principles are starkly highlighted in the project that Cholla submitted in October of 2023, the project Venus in Southwest DFW. That was a 400 megawatt project. It was submitted to Encore in October 2023, as I mentioned. Encore chose to place it into two studies, 150 megawatts into one study, 250 megawatts into another study. As of today, 250 megawatts is baseload, 150 is not. It's the same developer, it's the same project, it's a different outcome. Cholla is not asking the Commission to decide retroactivity or fair notice or any of that. We'll preserve that for later. Our ask is pretty simple: to condition the approval of PGR 145 on ERCOT completing the review for the remaining 150 megawatts, the RTP project loads, in enough time to be reflected in a batch zero clarification. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. All right, so staff is here. I think we also had a filing from ERCOT, so Jeff, if you want to come up as well. And Harka, however, you'd like to proceed?
I just want to lay out what we are asking you. Oh, sorry. Good morning. ERCOT board approved PGR.
Just to make sure everybody hears.
Okay. ERCOT board approved PGR 145 and NPRR 1325. And staff also recommends approval of these revision requests. We also attached the proposed order. We had multiple comments filed as late as yesterday on this one. And the only one we agree with ERCOT is when they implement, they should rely on affiliates to satisfy the maturity criteria. We are okay with that because, as you can see, in PGR has really strong language that even though they have to provide attestations, ERCOT can ask verification supporting documents at any time from this and can verify it and take actions accordingly. So with that in mind, we really recommend approval of PGR 145 and NPRR 1325.
Thank you, Harka. Jeff, I know you had a filing on issue around affiliates. If you want to lay out that filing, it would be helpful.
Sure. Jeff Billow with ERCOT. Good morning, Commissioners. So as Rika noted, PGR 145 defines an eligibility framework that identifies large load developments meeting defined maturity criteria based on the interconnecting large load entities, or ILLEs, attestation that it has undertaken certain actions or hold certain interest. Multiple commenters have sought clarification in project number 54445 that the eligibility criteria allow an ILE to rely on its affiliate to satisfy that criteria. ERCOT agrees that that requested clarification is reasonable and would not impair our ability to administer the Batch Zero process. ERCOT plans to implement PGR 145 to allow an ILE to rely on its affiliates to satisfy.
Jeff, hold on 1 second. Okay, so we're going to take a short recess.
Way to go, Jeff.
And we will come back when we are broadcasting again. If it actually cut out or not. So I think we got everything that Hark has said. Jeff, if you wouldn't mind just starting from the beginning, this way we make sure that the broadcast has everything.
Sure. Okay. So again, Jeff Billow with ERCOT. So Commissioners, PGR 145 defines an eligibility framework that identifies large load developments meeting defined maturity criteria based on the interconnecting large load entities, or ILLEs, attestation that it has undertaken certain actions or hold certain interests. Multiple commenters have sought clarification in project 54445 that the eligibility criteria allow an ILLE to rely on its affiliates to satisfy that criteria. ERCOT agrees that the requested clarification is reasonable and would not impair our ability to administer the Batch Zero process. ERCOT plans to implement PGR 145 to allow an ILE to rely on its affiliates to satisfy the defined maturity criteria. To do this, we need bright line criteria that we can apply to ensure that an affiliate is the actual affiliate to that entity. And so the criteria that we plan to use is from 16 Texas Admin Code, section 25.5, paragraph 3, subparagraphs A through E. And so that is for public utilities, but we will apply that same criteria to ILEs to define whether that entity is an affiliate or not. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or take any feedback on our letter.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate the clarification. I think this makes our implementation more congruent with what we're going to see in this space going forward, and so I appreciate that. Commissioners, questions for Jeff, for ERCOT, for Harka?
I was just going to clarify, Harka, when you mentioned earlier that staff was in support of ERCOT's interpretation of the term affiliate, you were specifically just referring to 16 TAC 25.3 A through E, subparagraph A through E, correct? Okay.
Okay, so, I'm good with this. I do want to work through just a couple issues with staff about implementation of this as we have a rule going through the process as well. So I know, Barksdale, one of the things you and I have talked about is refundability and the criteria and the desire to kind of change the refundability percentages from, and it can be Barksdale, Jessie, whomever. I just want to work through this implementation piece of it. Initially proposed is 80-20 non-refundable, and then we had a discussion around flipping that to 20-80 20 non-refundable, 80 refundable. When we're thinking about that methodology, so say someone with the current numbers requests a gig, so we're going to have credit of $50 million. If after a company gets its allocation, if they decide not to move forward, how are we applying those percentages? Will it be applied to the full request and the 50 million, or will that 20% non-refundability be applied to just the amount that they were allocated?
I'm going to let Jessie answer that.
Yeah, and again, understanding, Jessie, I want to understand as we're implementing this PGR, how we're thinking about this going forward.
Jessie Horn for Commission staff, and the way that staff is thinking about this is that the ratio that you've identified, the 20/80, would apply to the allocated capacity. And so if you requested capacity, we studied it, we've identified that we can provide capacity to X amount, and then you decide not to move forward, that amount, after we've gone through all the rigor of that, would be subject to a portion of it being non-refundable.
Okay. Commissioners, does that make sense? I just want to make sure we're all clear on this.
At least Barksdale didn't explain it.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's why I get it.
And then just one more clarification. So if you do move forward, the money that is being kept as you move forward, that ultimately is not just money that we're keeping to apply to something else. That's money that is being kept and used to apply to your cost that you're putting on the system. Is that correct?
Yes, and I would also add, though, that it's your cost to the system, but we're also trying to protect against stranded infrastructure and costs, and so that's the reason for holding it.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions?
Just one quick question on clarification. And this is going to be implementation of the PGR. Does this also implicate one of the pending rulemakings?
So we are maintaining consistency across the PGR 145 implementation and the rulemaking to make sure that going forward, there will be a consistent treatment of all of this.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed order.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. That'll bring us then to item number 31. It's project number 59772, proceeding to adjust the 2026 load forecast used by ERCOT.
Chris Brown will handle this item.
Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. Chris Brown for Commission staff. So ERCOT filed a request to adjust the 2026 long-term load forecast. Staff filed a memo. We also filed a memo asking for stakeholder feedback on this, and we received, I believe, 11 comments. The ERCOT proposal includes two options for adjustment, the first being based on historical realization rates, and the second, which is the recommended option by ERCOT and staff, is using the Batch Zero baseload forecast. I should mention that an important point here is that this number won't be known until mid-August, so this will result in some delays to some reports, most notably the triennial reliability assessments. I think those are the high points I'd like to lay out, but I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Thank you, Chris. I'm in agreement that option two is the right way to go on this. I think making as much congruent with the batch process as we can is the right pathway on this. I also want to note we did receive in this docket a letter from Chairman Charles Schwartner, who stressed the need to establish confidence in the load forecast and how that was a cornerstone of Senate Bill 6, and that we needed to ensure that whatever we did here was credible and verifiable. And so I think this gets us on that path to ensuring those things, and I appreciate his input into this project. Commissioners, any questions on this recommendation?
I'm supportive. I spoke at our last meeting when we kind of brought this up, that accurate load forecasting is foundational to everything we do. An updated forecast ensures that system planning, resource adequacy discussions, and operational readiness are grounded in reality. I support ERCOT using the batch process. That has gone through stakeholder comment with oodles of discussion, so I feel comfortable moving forward with that. So I'm in agreement.
I think path forward, what we really are looking to achieve is something that is executable and is doable. And I think the approach on the Batch Zero load forecast, using that as the load forecast, really helps us to achieve that.
Good here.
I completely agree. The use of actual numbers, incredibly helpful moving forward, so I agree.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed order.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails.
One item I want to highlight as well, this impacts reliability standard assessment. Staff will come to one of the next open meetings and provide a revised timeline after talking with ERCOT. Just want to let you know that.
Perfect. Thank you, Harka. Item number 27 is project number 55999, reports of the Electric Reliability Council of Texas. And this is consideration of ERCOT's good cause exception request for the 2026 RTP and May 2026 CDR.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Jonathan Cardiel and Chris Brown for Commission staff. Before you is a proposed order granting approval of ERCOT's request for good cause exception to not perform the May 2026 CDR and the 2026 RTP. Staff filed a memo recommending approval for ERCOT's requests. As indicated in ERCOT's request, the load forecast adjustment would delay the May CDR until September or October. Shortly after, ERCOT would then perform the December CDR. Staff finds that performing a May CDR with such delay would potentially result in duplicative work and provide little marginal value. For the RTP, staff agrees with ERCOT that their transmission planning resources would be more effectively spent on the Batch Zero study, as the study process and results will be comparable to an RTP. The RTP has also been historically used by ERCOT to satisfy NERC reliability requirements. ERCOT intends to satisfy these requirements without the RTP and in a more focused study. For these reasons, staff recommends the Commission grant ERCOT the good cause exceptions to not perform the May CDR and the 2026 RTP.
Appreciate that layout. I agree with this recommendation. Commissioners, questions for staff?
I'll talk because I know ERCOT wants to hear from me. I know they know I'm not a fan of good cause exceptions, but I do think if they're justified, they're definitely worthy of it. Staff, ERCOT, and stakeholders have definitely provided us ample evidence, and from the dais, I think we all know that we are undergoing transition and in the process of coming up with some new systems. So I don't think it's really prudent to ask ERCOT to use their very narrow resources right now to give us data that's not going to be meaningful and actually is going to be out of date. So because it's justified and we do see the significant transition we're in, I would grant the good cause exception.
I'm in favor of the good cause exception. I think just to reiterate, one of the things that staff brought up is that there is a requirement from the reliability standpoint, and those requirements will be handled separately. So again, utilizing the resources that we have to kind of focus on the transition and also the fact that we've taken care of what the NERC requirement is, I think puts us in a good place, and I'd be in favor of this.
I agree.
Same here.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed order.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion prevails. Thank you. Item 29 is project number 58000, rulemaking to update wholesale and IOU retail transmission cost recovery in the ERCOT region. We have a proposal for publication. Jessie, Bill, good morning.
Morning, Jessie Horn for Commission staff, and with me is Bill Abbott. Before you is staff's proposal for publication in project number 58000. This is a continuation of this work that staff had started in project number 58484, which was the evaluation of transmission cost recovery. And so this is now the rulemaking to start implementing the recommendations that came out of that report. And so as part of this rulemaking, what we've proposed is the moving away from 4 coincident peak to 12 CP measured on a 30-minute interval instead of a 15-minute interval. And then also to require a large load minimum billing demand. And happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jessie. Commissioners, I have a few questions, but before that, do y'all have any questions for Jessie?
Not yet.
So Jessie, on June 10th, we in ERCOT received a letter from Governor Abbott. Cyrus referenced it earlier. Amongst other things, it asked us to take action to ensure that data center interconnections will result in reduced residential electric bills, and had a couple more things. I know you're familiar with the letter. Do you feel that the PFP is currently constructed can address the issues that the governor put in his letter, or do we need to just, to ensure everyone has notice of what we might do? Is this something where we need to maybe take another open meeting and go back and think about the PFP that we're putting out to try to consider different frameworks that might be better able to achieve the governor's directives.
So Chairman, I think given the timing of when the letter came and our normal timelines for filings, that they were very close together. And so we probably would benefit from additional time and taking this up at a future open meeting to be able to evaluate that and ensure that we have met the directive that we were given.
I know you're doing a lot of work right now, so I just want to make sure we're all comfortable. Our next open meeting, I believe, is July 9th. Do you feel that's enough time to have discussions and incorporate potential changes to the framework to address the issues in the letter?
Yes, I think that staff can do that.
Okay. Commissioners, so that would be my recommendation. As Jessie said, the letter came really close to, as we, staff, to the time staff was finalizing this PFP. I want to make sure that we do our diligence to ensure that, what the governor has asked of us can be incorporated into this. And so my request and recommendation would be that we delay this and allow staff to work on it and then come back to the July 9th open meeting to consider a revised PFP.
I agree.
I'm in concurrence as well, Chairman. The only question I was going to have is, I know with like administrative procedure, deadlines, et cetera, will any of that be truncated to ensure that we're also complying with SB 6 requirements?
Yes, so we're still going to stay on track for December, no later than December 31st, so a December open meeting for adoption.
Wonderful.
And so, yeah, we won't be taking the full 6 months by doing that.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Barksdale.
I was just going to say, with regard to the comments that Cyrus made earlier, we can file the governor's letter in project number 58317, which is our general SB 6 implementation control number. And if folks have thoughts that they want to share with the commission, they are welcome to file them there, 58317.
Thank you for that. All right, commissioners, any other questions on this item? Jessie, Bill, thank you. All right, and then I think that'll take us to item number 36. That is project 41210, information related to the Southwest Power Pool Regional State Committee, and we have an update from Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I attended the CARE team meeting in Chicago earlier this week. The CARE team continues to work on cost allocation for the new 765 build-out. A number of scenarios were presented to gauge the impact of potentially changing key aspects of the current methodology. Additionally, I've been working with SPP staff on the cost containment part of the group's initiative. SPP is proposing to add more transparency to their project monitoring and reporting, including a new public dashboard, a standardized reporting template, and for high-valued projects, more detailed project tracking parameters for permit applications, right-of-way and land acquisition, engineering design, material equipment procurement, and construction activities. And many of these enhancements to project oversight follow our Texas model established for the Permian monitor. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you for that update. Commissioners, thoughts or questions for Commissioner Jackson? All right, thank you for that. I think that's the last thing on the agenda. Before we adjourn, I did want to note that I erred in missing one person, Kim Van Winkle, who is also on staff. If you know, this is also her last open meeting, so I want to wish her well as she endeavors to do other things in her career. All right. Commissioners, anything else? Yes, sir.
Wildfire PFB? Yeah, the wildfire one.
Sorry, Julie.
Oh, that's totally fine. All right, my mistake. So before we do anything else, we'll go to item number 32. That is project number 59432, Transmission Distribution Pole Structural Integrity and Service Quality Standards, PFP. Apologies, I think I put this on my consent list, and so that's my fault.
Yeah, sorry, y'all are stuck here for just a few seconds longer, guys.
It's because your briefings were so good.
Oh, thank you so much. Good morning, Commissioners. Julie Blocker for Commission staff. I also have with me James Uten for Commission staff. Item number 32 is staff's recommended proposal for publication in project number 59432. This proposal seeks to implement Senate Bill 1789 from the 89th regular session through a new Section 2561 and accompanying form, and amendments to Section 2552 and 2594. Proposed new Section 2561 would establish transmission and distribution pole structural integrity standards, including by establishing inspection requirements, a serviceability grading system, and corrective action requirements for electric utilities, municipally owned utilities, and electric cooperatives that operate these structures. Additionally, the new rule would require those entities to submit an annual report using the new proposed form. The proposed amendments to Section 2552 would strengthen the distribution feeder performance standards that electric utilities and transmission and distribution utilities are subject to, and it would also authorize the Commission to consider the duration of service interruptions on distribution feeders and enforcement-related determinations related to those entities. Finally, the proposed amendments to Section 2594 will remove the requirement for electric utilities to include information on their distribution pole inspection activities in the annual report on infrastructure improvement and maintenance. With that, staff is happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that layout. Commissioners, questions?
No, I'm really happy to see this PFP go out. I know that the work, once it is implemented, will have a profound effect on safety and reliability, so supportive and look forward to comments.
All right, with
Thank you
that.
for all the work.
Yep, I will entertain a motion to approve the proposal in this project.
So moved.
And
Have a
for-
motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails.
For those listening, it'll be in the project, but comments on this will be due July 31st.
Perfect. Thank you for
Awesome.
that clarification. Thank you for catching me for skipping over it.
No
Apologies. All right, so with that, we have no further business before us, so this meeting of the Public Utility Commission of Texas is hereby adjourned.
No.
Not at all, not at all.
It's hard to anticipate who's going where, so.